There we go. I think we're recording now. Yes, we are. And we are going to talk about the elite of society from the outside viewpoint that you had, I think.
Yeah. I got the scholarship to prep school, and some of the people were, kind of the spoiled kids of the ruling class. Like one of my classmates was friends with Peter Fonda. You know, that society, people at that level have things a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. So you said most of your life, what you did in one way or another was to make people with money look good.
Yeah, I just accepted that as my job definition. It made life a lot easier. You know.
Well, it seems like you were good at it because it was a lifelong thing. So you must have been very good at it and very diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
So what forms did that take? Like, what did you do in that capacity?
Oh, let's see. Or two cups of coffee wasn't enough for me this morning.
I hear you, man. I had the hardest time getting up. That's why we're an hour later than we scheduled. Well, you went to art school, right?
Yes.
You got the scholarship, and then when you were done with that, what did you do next?
Let's see. I went to prep school. I got out. I went to a local community college for about one semester, or a local branch of the state college, the Waterbury branch of the University of Connecticut, and it was pretty clear to me that the folks teaching didn't know exactly what they were talking about. That they just knew what they had read. They hadn't actually done anything.
Yeah.
So that was when I hopped a train for New York City and started studying writing from writers and history from historians and art from artists. And
so did you do that at school, or did you find some other way of absorbing that information?
A lot of it was through Nathaniel Branden Institute. I told you about Ayn Rand and all that. Do you know much about her or about?
No, just that she tends to be very controversial.
Yeah.
I know.
Where to start? When she was a kid, she had a nice life in St. Petersburg, Russia. Her father was a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a nice place. And she said that when the Russian Revolution came, pretty soon they had people camping out in their apartment, kind of additional people that needed someplace to live.
Yeah.
And she never really got over that. She got critical of communism because she got her toes stepped on.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of my library supervisor in New Mexico, Raul Herrera, who was one of Castro's buddies up until Castro confiscated his Lincoln, nationalized it, and then
he's like, maybe this isn't so good. And he said, maybe this isn't so good after all.
Yeah, he was disenchanted with that, but it was fascinating interacting with folks from that world.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's completely, it's so different.
oh, so Ayn Rand came to New York or came to the United States. She always liked American movies, so she went out to Hollywood. She wanted to work as a screenwriter. She'd been writing. Um, and I think California was where she began to draw a following and develop some kind of an organized philosophy. She became very pro-capitalist, very anti-communist. Um, I think some of her first involvement was for Wendell Willkie. I don't know him well, but
That name. I know that name, but
I think
lawyer, corporate executive, 1940 Republican nominee for president.
yeah.
Interesting. So what was her relationship with him?
Oh, she worked on the campaign. Uh, she wrote what she called intellectual ammunition. Talking points, propaganda, things for the campaign to focus on.
Oh, okay.
And some of the talking points that she developed back in the 40s, then you can still hear from the Republicans repeating those lines.
Yeah. Huh. So what was her connection to New York when you went to school or when you were up there?
Well, let's see. One of her followers was Nathaniel Brandon, who was a psychologist, and she set him up, or he started running the Nathaniel Brandon Institute in New York,
Okay.
which gave lectures on elements of Ayn Rand's philosophy. It was given live in New York and on tape all over the world, where people wanted to be involved.
Right.
Brandon was okay. One of Ayn Rand's central concepts was that self-esteem was critical for people's psychological well-being, and at that time, people weren't talking about that, but she dropped that into the conversation, and now every psychological interview addresses the issue.
Yeah. It's become completely mainstream. I mean, that's the school of thought that everyone has, right?
Yeah. They had the lectures in the Hotel Roosevelt, which was adjacent to Grand Central Station. And it drew people who were friends of hers. Let's see, Mickey Spillane showed up one day.
Wow.
She was an admirer of his writing for the clear black and white character delineations and such. Mike Wallace sat in on some sessions.
Oh.
Let's see. Well, anyway, so I probably told you, Alan Greenspan was there. He was being a Wall Street person
Yeah.
and teaching us about economics. That this was before he was appointed to be the, I don't know, whatever the economics are.
Yeah.
Head of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. So this is where you kind of absorbed your knowledge instead of a traditional school.
Yeah,
And this was before you went to art school, right?
Kind of around the same period.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing art school, and I was also doing the Nathaniel Branden Institute.
And that is, I'm going to interrupt for a second because that is one thing that it's like an overarching thing that I've noticed with you is that you are the kind of person to pull information from a vast amount of different places and people. And, you never did get locked into one source.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting to me. Yeah.
It was easy with objectivism, which was what Ayn Rand's philosophy and system was called, to kind of put yourself in a closet, isolate yourself from other thought patterns.
Which people still do to this day, constantly.
Yeah. That's part of the mechanism. Someone was starting an objectivist discussion group here in Salem, and I went to one of the meetings, and I don't know. They don't know what they're talking about.
Was it people younger than you who hadn't actually been in the mix?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. What did they think about anything you had to say, or did you say?
I pretty much let them go on. I wanted to find out what the state of the art was, what people were thinking.
Where they were coming from, yeah.
And it really hasn't improved from the 60s. They were still repeating the talking points and the lines that they had been given.
And that's where insulating yourself from other things takes you. You just get stagnant, I think.
Yeah, that's what I found. I figured out some of the what they call internal contradictions. She was rallying for individualism and against the collective and all that. But within her own structure, she was very authoritarian and very Stalinist. She had adopted the central leader with the monopoly on truth that kind of brings it in out of the air, or
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's okay, individualism. I've seen that in a few other places where I'm all about individualism as long as you're just like me.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So finally, what happened was that Nathaniel Branden and Ayn Rand had been having an affair from back in California. I think it started when, like, he was in his 30s and she was in her 50s or something like that. So it was, they were still, I don't know, at the same developmental level, more more or less.
Hmm.
He got up to New York, and Brandon found himself popular, so he didn't need Ayn Rand for company much anymore. And she wasn't aging that well, and somehow he let that slip and got her really pissed off.
Oh.
And she kicked him out. You know, if she'd had a gun, I'm sure she would have shot him. And he denounced her and
oh man, drama.
And explained forward. Yeah, a lot of this took place. I went to one of the lectures at the Hotel Roosevelt, and that was where Brandon kind of let the cat out of the bag, you know.
Publicly.
So, yeah, told everyone what was going on. And this was like your parents arguing or something, you know. There was a whole tight system of thought there that was impermeable. But then when you saw them use the the arguments and the techniques that they used against their enemies against each other,
oh,
you know, the curtains fell from people's eyes.
Right, the man behind the curtain. Yeah, that would pretty much. I mean, if a system is dependent on the beginners of the system and then they fall out, then where is the system, right? Where's your confidence in it? Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that's when I finally figured out that this was actually a cult, that it didn't have much to do with intellectual thought, because if you challenge any element of it intellectually, they would go back on you with an authoritarian approach.
Right, you'd be censured in one way or another. Interesting. So after that fell apart, did you focus more on the art side of it?
Well, let's see. There's a lot of chaos among the ex-followers in New York. Some of them drifted off to Albert Ellis. Do you know who Albert Ellis is?
Do not. I know the name. Albert Ellis, psychotherapist who founded Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy.
Yeah.
Clinical psychologist.
Otherwise known as cognitive therapy these days.
Oh, okay.
So he was responsible for that whole train of thought entering the mainstream. It came from Ayn Rand, but he was the one who did the work of teaching and spreading it.
Which is very, very mainstream now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Huh.
I think that experience got me interested in cults, and there was a lot of that going along. I got hustled by the Scientologist once, you know, free personality test, you know. So,
right.
So I went up and, you know, held on to the tin cans and did the whole deal. And said, you know, that's an interesting technique, but this is also a personality cult with its own problems.
Right. You know, and I sometimes wonder about like those tests and stuff because, for example, at a random kind of county fair around here, you can see these people with the foot bath. and it's supposed to detoxify through your feet. You put your feet in there, but what's happened? It gets all yucky and gross and stuff. But they've got it's an electrically charged solution, and they've got a copper rod in there, and that's what's creating. Like, people don't know this.
Oh, I was
They
wondering.
think it's all toxins being taken out of their body, but it's not. It's just a scientific trick.
I've seen that on TV, and it looked a bit fishy.
It is, yeah, and the people who, those Barker type people who promote that are slick. Like, I have an automatic distrust of anyone who has that kind of smooth patter anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and I think Scientology, is, I don't know much about it, but that's how it kind of strikes me, as like a Carnival Barker type thing.
Yeah, that L. Ron Hubbard, that in our storyline, L. Ron Hubbard was also associated with Gert and Frank Russell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were into Scientology when it was Dianetics.
Right.
When it was a form of cybernetics that we were just learning about, so that we could learn how computers think.
Okay.
Let's see.
So Ellis.
One of the other ones that I got hustled for was the Moonies. Did you ever deal with the Moonies?
Not personally, but yeah, I know of them.
Yeah, they were having a thing, so free weekend in the country, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I went up to this place on the Hudson River that used to be a seminary. So it had all the educational facilities.
Right.
And that's where they were doing the indoctrination. They start out, they'd have a group of people, and they'd be talking about Sun Myung Moon and how he was the father and he was God on earth and all that.
Yeah.
And then they had planted in some of the Korean women because they were really good at getting emotional and
Yeah.
carrying on and kind of prompting the rest of the crowd to have some kind of emotional response to it.
Right. That stuff is catching, right? Especially if you're in it. Yeah, it is contagious. When you're in an emotionally charged situation and someone's controlling the narrative and there's all that emotion there, it is definitely contagious through a crowd.
Yeah. And then what Moon was doing was having mass marriages where they pick people and kind of pair them off, and they say, you and you get married. Now, I didn't know anyone personally who had gone through that process. Let's see, they were.
Sorry, I got somebody mowing the grass outside.
Yeah, they show patriotic films and such. Finally, when I had enough of it, I conveniently parked my car in the woods a couple of blocks away so that I could escape. I just went for a walk to get some air and didn't come back.
We should probably It's been about a half an hour, so let's kind of cut this short now because this guy's going to be out here now.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so I am going to set this up and it'll be on the Facebook page, and then we'll convene again next week.
What should I talk about next time? I wasn't fully prepared this time because
Yeah, let's talk before next weekend. And I'm sure between the two of us, we can come up with something interesting that you can focus on.
okay.
Sound good?
I thought about talking about particular individuals that I met through the art world, you know, kind of.
I think that would be really interesting. Yeah.
So the artists.
Yes. Yes, we could maybe do even an interview on each one and show their work and talk about, you know, how you knew them and all that stuff. You want to do that?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to sign off for now because stupid lawnmower guy. But I will talk to you. I'll talk to you before next weekend.
Very good. How's your immunization coming?
I am eligible at the end of the month.
Ah, very good.
Yes, so about the time you're getting your second shot, I'll be getting my first.
Okay.
So we'll give it another month, and then we should be able to have conversations in person again, which will be fantastic.
Oh.
Yeah, so hang in there. One more month. We'll do it.
Can't wait.
I know. Well, I'll see you in a bit. I won't see you, but I'll see you here.
Okay.
And we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.